The hall was already full long before the music was meant to begin. Rows of wooden chairs stretched from the front to the back, each one occupied. People sat close together, knees almost touching. Coats were folded neatly on laps or hung over chairbacks. Some people leaned toward each other, speaking in low voices. Soft laughter moved through the room like a light breeze. Others smiled politely, nodding as if they were listening. Though their eyes often drifted away, this was not a place where people came only for music. It was a place where people came to be noticed, to feel important, to feel like they belonged to something special. At the front of the hall stood a grand piano. It was large and dark, its smooth surface shining under the warm lights above. The wood looked deep and rich, shaped by years of care. The piano had been cleaned so well that it reflected small pieces of the room, the lights, the ceiling, even moving shapes as people shifted in their seats. The bench in front of it sat perfectly still, empty. No one was paying attention to it yet. Most eyes were turned toward friends, strangers, and familiar faces. Some people checked their phones quickly, then slipped them away. Others glanced at their watches, wondering when things would begin. Along the walls, servers walked carefully, holding trays with glasses that clinked softly when they moved. The smell of old wood mixed with gentle perfume and polished metal. Everything felt prepared, planned, important. And still, many people felt restless. Then the doors at the side of the hall opened. At first, almost no one noticed. The sound of the doors was quiet, lost among voices and movement. An old man stepped inside. He did not arrive with attention or noise. There was no announcement. No one called his name. No spotlight followed him. He simply walked in, slowly, as if he had done this many times before, but never here. He was not tall. His shoulders were straight, though age had softened the strength behind them. His steps were careful, measured. His hair was thin and gray, combed back neatly, as if he still believed small details mattered. His face carried lines shaped by time, not by anger or bitterness, but by years of thought and patience. His suit was clean and pressed, though clearly old. The fabric had faded just slightly. The cuffs were worn from years of use. His shoes were polished, but no longer new. He held his hands loosely at his sides as he walked. A few people noticed him now. One person leaned toward another and whispered something, covering their mouth with a hand. A small smile appeared, not cruel, but curious. Someone else raised an eyebrow, studying him. From the back row, a quiet chuckle slipped out, then quickly turned into a cough when the person realized it carried farther than expected. The old man did not react. He walked down the center aisle step by step. His pace never changed. Each step felt steady, almost counted, like a rhythm only he could hear. His eyes stayed forward. He did not look left or right. He did not search the crowd for approval. He did not hesitate. When he reached the front of the hall, he stopped beside the piano. Now, more people noticed. The whispers grew a little louder, though still careful, heads tilted. Someone shrugged as if to say, "Well, let's see." Another person smiled again, polite but unsure, as if they were watching something unexpected. The old man paused. He looked at the piano. Not with excitement, not with fear, but with something quieter, something deeper. It was the look someone gives when they see an old friend after many years apart, not rushing forward, not stepping back, just standing still, letting the moment exist. He reached out and placed one hand gently on the edge of the piano. The surface felt cool and solid beneath his fingers, real. Inside him, memories stirred, not loud ones, not clear pictures. Just feelings. Long hours alone in small rooms, cold mornings, warm afternoons when sunlight fell across worn keys, times when music was the only thing that stayed when everything else changed, when people left, when plans failed, when words were not enough. He pulled the bench back slightly and sat down. The sound of the bench moving echoed through the hall more than expected. It broke through the quiet conversations. A few people looked up, surprised by how loud it sounded. Someone in the front row leaned back and crossed their arms, waiting. The old man adjusted the bench just a little. Then he sat straight, resting his hands calmly on his knees. For a moment he did nothing. The hall felt strange now. Not loud, not quiet, like everyone was holding their breath without knowing why. From the back, a voice whispered, "Is he really going to play?" Another voice answered softly, "I guess so." A faint smile passed between them. The old man either did not hear it or he heard it and no longer cared. He had learned long ago that whispers came and went. Smiles faded. Doubt changed faces, but it always sounded the same. It had followed him through many rooms, many years. His fingers twitched slightly, a habit he never lost. Once, long ago, his hands had moved fast and strong. Back then, music filled his days. He played not for crowds, not for praise, but for himself. For quiet rooms, for evenings when the world felt heavy. Music was never about fame. It was a way to breathe. Life, as it always does, had moved on. Work came. Responsibility followed. Loss arrived without warning. There were moments when music had to wait. Years when the piano stayed closed. Years when his hands rested more than they played. But the music never left him. It stayed patient. Like something that understood time better than people ever could. The old man lifted his hands from his knees and held them. Above the keys, they hovered there. Not touching. Someone in the second row shifted, expecting sound. When none came, they cleared their throat. Another person glanced toward the door, wondering how long this would take. The old man closed his eyes. He was not nervous. What he felt was respect for the instrument, for the moment, for the life that had led him here. His breathing slowed. He felt the bench beneath him, the floor under his feet, the space around him. The quiet growing deeper. In that quiet, memories returned again. A small room with peeling paint, a piano with chipped keys, cold fingers learning where to go. Long nights where music filled the silence left by absent voices. He remembered the first time someone truly listened. Not smiled, not clapped out of kindness, but listened. That feeling stayed with him longer than any praise ever could. The old man opened his eyes. The hall felt farther away now, like it had stepped back to watch. He lowered his hands slightly, then stopped again. In the audience, confusion slowly replaced amusement. Whispers faded, smiles disappeared. People waited, unsure of what they were waiting for, yet unwilling to look away. The old man's face remained calm. If anyone had looked closely, they might have seen it. Not pride, not fear, but readiness. This was not about proving anyone wrong. He had learned long ago that proving things only tied him to other people's thoughts. This was about finishing something that had never really ended. His fingers finally touched the keys, but he did not press them. The hall felt different now. Quieter, tighter. Someone in the front row leaned forward without realizing it. The old man took one last breath, and just before the first note could sound, he paused, not because he forgot. Not because he was unsure, but because some moments deserved to be met fully. The hall, the piano, the waiting faces, all of it came together in that pause. The whispers were gone. The smiles were gone. There was only silence, and in that silence, something was about to change. The old man let the silence stay a moment longer. It was not planned. It was not a trick. It was simply the way he had always begun. Silence had always helped him listen. Not to the room, but to himself. The hall waited. Some people shifted slightly in their seats. Others sat very still, unsure of what they were waiting for, yet unwilling to break the moment. Then, gently, his fingers pressed the keys. The first sound was soft. So soft that a few people wondered if it had truly happened. It did not rise sharply. It did not announce itself. It did not ask for attention. It slipped into the room like a quiet thought, warm and steady, like a voice speaking after years of being silent. The hall changed, not all at once, slowly. Those who had been leaning back without interest leaned forward without realizing it. Arms that had been crossed loosened. Shoulders dropped. Even the servers near the walls stopped walking, their trays frozen in their hands as the sound reached them. The old man's hands moved again. Another note joined the first. Then another. The melody began simply, like a path opening step by step. It did not rush forward. It did not try to prove anything. It moved at its own pace, confident and calm, like a story told by someone who understood that meaning comes with patience. The piano filled the space in a way voices never could. The whispers disappeared. Completely. No one smiled. Now, no one checked the time? No one looked around to see who was watching. The hall, once full of movement and quiet noise, felt frozen, as if everyone sensed that something fragile had entered the room. The old man's shoulders slowly relaxed. His fingers moved with care, not speed. Each note felt chosen, not pushed. The sound carried emotion, not effort. It rose and fell gently, like breathing, like memory returning on its own inside him. Something opened. The years slipped away without asking permission. He was no longer an old man under bright lights. He was someone younger again, sitting alone in small rooms, playing not to be heard, but to feel understood. In those moments, the piano had never judged him. It had listened. The way people sometimes could not. The piano answered him now the same way. It always had, steady, patient, honest. The melody grew richer. More notes joined, weaving together slowly, filling spaces that had been empty for a long time. The sound reached the corners of the hall, touching walls that had never known this kind of quiet before. It was not perfect. A trained ear might have noticed small pauses, slight changes in pressure, tiny flaws that come with age and time. But that was not what mattered. What mattered was that the music felt real. In the front row, someone felt their throat tighten. They swallowed, unsure why their chest felt heavy. A memory surfaced without warning, an old afternoon, a familiar voice, a moment they thought they had forgotten. In the middle rows, a listener closed their eyes. The music reminded them of something they could not name, something gentle, something they did not want to lose again. Near the back, the person who had laughed earlier sat completely still now. Their smile was gone. Their hands rested quietly in their lap. They stared at the piano, not with doubt, but with attention. The old man played on. The melody shifted. For a moment it grew lighter, almost hopeful, like morning light touching a window. Then it softened again, carrying a gentle sadness. Not heavy, not painful, just honest. The kind of sadness that exists alongside peace. His hands told a story his mouth never had, of waiting, of losing, of staying. Years ago, when life grew busy and loud, music had become something he visited less often. There were days when he walked past pianos without stopping, weeks when his hands felt empty, months when silence felt easier than remembering. There were times when he wondered if that part of his life was finished, but the music had waited. It never rushed him. It never blamed him. And now, in this hall full of strangers, it returned as if it had never left. The old man's face remained calm, but inside him, something warmed. Not pride, not victory. Peace. A quiet peace that came from knowing he had finally listened again. The audience felt it too, even if they could not explain it. This was not the kind of music that asked for applause. It did not reach outward, searching for praise. It reached inward, touching places people often ignored. It reminded them of quiet parts of themselves, parts they rarely had time to hear. The hall seemed to breathe with him. As the melody grew stronger, the sound filled the room fully now. The piano no longer felt like an object placed at the front of the hall. It felt like the center of something shared, something human. People forgot where they were. They forgot who sat beside them. They forgot why they had come. All that remained was the music. The old man's hands moved with gentle confidence. Not fast, not slow, exactly where they needed to be. His fingers pressed the keys as if they knew them by heart. Because they did. Time felt different. Minutes passed without being counted. No one thought about what came next. No one thought about the past. They simply listened. Then, slowly, the music began to change again. The melody grew quieter. Softer. Like a voice lowering at the end of a sentence. Knowing the words had already been said, the old man felt it coming. He always did. He let the sound fade naturally. He did not hold on to it. He did not push it away. The final notes felt like letting go, not stopping. His hands slowed. The last note rang out, light and clear. And then silence. No one moved. No one breathed loudly. The sound lingered, even after it was gone. It stayed in the air, warm and gentle. It felt wrong to disturb it. Like waking someone from a peaceful sleep, the old man let his hands rest on the keys a moment longer. Then he lifted them carefully and placed them back on his knees. He did not look up. He did not wait. The silence stretched then. Somewhere in the hall, one person stood. No words were spoken. No signal was given. They simply rose from their seats, slowly, as if standing was the only thing that felt right. Then another person stood, then another. Soon, chairs shifted softly. People rose one by one until the entire hall stood together, connected by something they could not name. The applause came next, not sharp, not rushed. It started softly, like rain touching the ground. Then it grew. Hands clapped with honesty, not politeness. Not because it was expected, but because it felt necessary. The sound filled the hall just as the music had. Strong and sincere, the old man looked up now. For the first time his eyes met the audience. He did not smile widely. He did not bow deeply. He simply stood, slowly and carefully, and gave a small nod. It was not a thank you. It was an acknowledgement. He turned back to the piano and rested one hand on its edge again. The same gentle touch as before. The same quiet respect. Then he stepped away. As he walked down the aisle, the applause continued. People watched him with new eyes now. Not curiosity. Not doubt. Recognition. Not of fame, but of something human. Someone near the aisle reached out, then stopped, unsure why they had done it. Another person pressed their hands together, holding the feeling close. Afraid it might fade. The old man walked on. He did not rush. He did not stay. At the doors. He paused once more and looked back at the hall, not to see the crowd, but to feel the moment settle inside him. Then he opened the door and stepped out. The door closed quietly behind him. Inside the hall, the applause slowly faded. People looked at one another differently now. Some smiled softly. Others wiped their eyes and looked away, pretending nothing had happened. No. One spoke right away. They did not need to. They carried the music with them, long after the chairs were empty and the lights dimmed. The feeling remained, a simple reminder that talent does not disappear with time. That passion does not need permission. That some stories wait patiently to be finished. And sometimes all it takes is one quiet moment for everything to change.